Today, we're going to take a look at the Garmin D2 Air smartwatch. Now, I've been flying with this watch for about a year now, and I want to review some of its pros and cons. My first impression was disappointment, as this model does not support moving maps. The Garmin Delta is the only model that supports moving maps. However, it's more expensive. And even with the most basic of GPS navigators having some kind of moving map display, this was a little disappointing. But in the year I've been flying with it, I've grown to enjoy the features it does offer, like direct-to navigation, a horizontal situation indicator, a great backup to an altimeter and distance measuring equipment. Over the summer, our GPS in the aircraft quit working, and I was out on a quick flight in the local area and didn't grab my iPad to use ForeFlight. It dawned on me that I was without a lot of basic navigation equipment, but I was wearing the D2, so I could just look down at my watch and still make accurate radio calls with distances from the airport.
Sandpoint area traffic, Skyhawk 061 is 7 miles to the south, coming down through 4,200 Sandpoint.
So the one cool party trick this watch does have is the pulse oximeter and heart rate monitor. Now it says keep still, and it means keep dead still, do not move. If you start moving, it ends up pausing like this. So then I go ahead and try again, and this time I'm a lot more still, and now I get a pretty good reading, except it still hesitates at the end, and I think anytime you get a hesitation, the measurement is not completely accurate. So it's much better to use this in a passive manner. It'll also give you heart rate information. One thing I found out that was neat was that my heart rate shoots way up on final approach, and I guess that makes sense. You know, you're kind of in a stressful situation trying to get the aircraft stabilized. But with the heart rate monitor and Pulse Ox, the watch finds its way into my daily life more often than just flying. You can use these sensors to track your sleep as well. So this is the Garmin Connect app, and this is where you can view and analyze your flight data, Pulse Ox and heart rate, view your flights on a map, add watch apps, and change watch settings. Let's take a look at some of the things we can do with the app. So as you can see, it's got all kinds of options and settings, golf course. The app is really made for all of the watches that in Garmin's line. Okay, so here's my activities that it has automatically downloaded in there, so we can just take a look at one of them. And now you can see it's got the time, distance, and now here is where your flight actually gets put on a map. Now when you finish a flight, you do see an image that kind of shows your track in the summary, but it's just not on a map. But it does show you your summary for altitude, distance, speed, and somewhat of a graphical depiction of where you actually flew. So it does record GPS data of where you are. You just can't view it back on the watch itself. And there's all kinds of data in here. We've got altitude and ground speed. So as a smartwatch, it does have some of the features you would expect. One of the things I don't like is that you can't just text message back to people. You're stuck with these text responses. Now it does have the option to customize responses and remove some of these others. This is how you're going to load different apps, is you need the Connect IQ, and this works just like a Google Play Store. You can kind of browse through and get different apps that are available for the D2 Air. As far as aviation type apps, there really isn't much available. So you can change your background to all kinds of different stuff, but really none of them pertain to aviation. And if they do, they don't include the kind of information that we would really be interested in looking at. So this weather app is one that I thought would be neat. Even though it's a paid app, I went ahead and installed it so that I could give it that 21-day trial and kind of see how it worked for me. Unfortunately, in the coming month, we would get socked in with a ton of IFR weather, and I never really got a good chance to go flying with it or to look at it. And by the time I actually got to look at it, the trial period had expired, and so I just went ahead and uninstalled it. So a quick search of just aviation apps, and you can see there's some good backgrounds. There's a couple of METAR, TAF, flight instrument type apps available. But a lot of this is redundant on the stuff that's already included with the watch. I find the information that's already included with the watch to be very sufficient. I think Garmin did a good job of building in the stuff that they would expect pilots to need. And let's take a look at some of those features that Garmin builds in. You can see we've got our track direction, our distance to destination. We've got flight times, altimeters. There's a built-in timer so that you can do fuel tank selection. You've got your heart rate, SpO2, and then we've got our horizontal situation indicator. We've also got our sunset and our clock. And it's also presented in different screens so that you can choose the screen that's right for you. So here's one feature you can do is you can customize and custom build your own watch face background. Okay, so let's just do an example of building one of these custom watch faces. And we'll use the DC3 here. And you can change the different aspects and the look and feel of it. But one thing I don't like about this watch face builder is that you never get an opportunity to put back in the aviation widgets. Okay, so once you are done, you can install it, and then everything on this watch has to be resynced. So you have to go back to the main home screen. So up in the top there, you can see the watch with the green dot, and that's your synchronization. So once that goes all the way around, then your watch is synced. And then the blue spinny circles on the right is the sync button. All right, now let's look at the watch and let's see what kind of options we have for the face. So on the standard Garmin aviation face, you get these 3 bubbles, and you can change each bubble to reflect whatever data you want. So I like leaving them on the aviation data sets, which is going to be mostly the weather for your preset airport. And you can have it set the METAR, the graphical depiction of weather, and then the wind. And here's the other watch faces that come with it. You can see you've got the animated ones that are pretty cool, but I've never used them because they're missing that data that I want the watch for. So I can just flip my wrist and see my METAR at my local airport. Okay, and all of these are customizable. And we flip through, and we're going to come up on that custom DC3 watch face that we had made earlier. And we can just select it, and there you go. Now you've got your favorite image as your watch face background. But there's nothing else you can do to this. You can't have any other data on it. So speaking of that extra data, here's the METAR screen, and it's going to pull your favorite airport that you've set. Here I have it set to Sandpoint. And then it's also going to give you the TAF, the next closest airport to you. And there's all kinds of data in here you can scroll through. And from the main home screen, if you just continue swiping down, you're going to go through all of the different menus it has. So it's got the health stat menu. And if you're wearing this is where you're going to measure your heart rate and stuff. It's got your day, how many steps you made. And then it's got a live altimeter, which is neat. And then it's got your sunrise, sunset screen, which is really helpful. Then you've got your airport information. And so you can select the airport in this, and it'll tell you runway lengths. It's got wind direction advisors. Just all kinds of good information that could be helpful about an airport. Okay, and if we click this top button, we actually get to the main menu of the watch itself. And you can see it's got a lot more settings. You've got music. It's got the Garmin Wallet Pay. There's your Direct To button. We've got a brightness setting, so we can set it to night flying setting. And we can check the battery charge level. So this is the proprietary connector for the D2, and it just plugs in the back here. Now the battery life on this watch is awesome, and it charges really fast. You can plug it in before going to the airport and have it charged up in about 30 minutes. The watch also comes with a trial period of Garmin Pilot, and I use ForeFlight, but I thought it would make a good idea to try Pilot. And unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to fly with Pilot yet, and that's for a whole nother review. But I found it very easy to set up the D2 watch, as well as tie it into the flight simulator and use my watch and iPad all together in Flight Simulator. And with the potential of adding Garmin instruments into the aircraft, it could be a good option to switch over to Pilot with the watch and everything would sync together. Updates are automatically installed by the app and the watch, and the GPS updates are automatic as well. So overall, it's a decent watch. If you have to have moving maps, I would suggest the Garmin Delta PX. The PX includes the pulse oximeter, and that has moving maps. And I hope this review helped you decide if this watch was right for you. And if it did, give me a like and a subscribe, and we'll do some more aviation content in the future.